Ever felt confused when using trend lines? Well, no worries, I got you, because in today's video, I'm about to break down how you can use the trend lines more effectively for high probability setups and make profits. Whether you're trading Forex, crypto, stocks, even indices, you're able to apply this. So I'll see you after the intro so that we can get right into it. Welcome back, YouTube family. If you're new to this trading space, you know it's Karian, and this is where we teach you how to become a profitable trader in 2025 and beyond. So if this is something that you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button because it don't cost you nothing. Without further ado, let's get right into this trendline strategy. And we're going to be starting off with what exactly is trendline, because you have to understand what a trendline is to be able to use this strategy effectively. So let's get into it. Now, a trend line is literally a line that acts as a support or resistance level. What it actually does is it connects two or more price points going into the future. Now, in a downtrend, you'll see that these trend lines are drawn above price and they are literally connecting the lower highs, right? While in an uptrend, trend lines are drawn under price, connecting the higher lows. Now, what you have to understand when it comes on to trend lines is that the more touches, the stronger the trend line. All right, so the more touches that are respectful, then the stronger that trend line becomes, and you'll realize that price keeps coming back to that area, retesting the trend line and actually bouncing. So we're going to be going through all of this. I'm going to show you a step-by-step process how you utilize this, but I want you to understand that when it comes on to the multiple touches, you've got 2 touches, which equals a potential opportunity. 3 or more touches gives a stronger confirmation, and then you have what's called the break and the retest, which is a potential entry opportunity as well. So you have to get an understanding of these when it comes on to what the trend lines can actually give in terms of a trade setup. So how do we actually draw these? So let's get on the charts and we're going to be drawing some trend lines. Let's get into it. All right, so when it comes on to drawing our trend lines, we pay keen attention to our swing highs and our swing lows. Now, what do I mean by this? If you're a complete beginner, you may be lost. Now, in an uptrend, the market is actually making higher highs and higher lows, right? And I'll clearly draw that structure so that you can see we're moving up, right? And one of the key things that I want you to pay attention to when you're looking at even identifying your swing highs and your swing lows is that you're paying attention to the wicks and not the body. So where did the actual candle go, right, when it comes on to the wick, right? So we're ideally looking at price action, and we're looking at what price is actually doing in detail. Right? Now, this is an upward trend and we're clearly making higher highs and higher lows. Now, what is our swing low? Now, in an uptrend, we're looking at swing lows. So our swing lows are literally at the bottom section. So I'll grab my highlighter here, right? And I'll just tap on these swing lows so that you can see them. These are literally our swing lows, right? Now, this is really what we have so far. And when we're drawing a trend line for an uptrend, remember our trend line is under price connecting the swing lows, right? We're connecting these. So these are higher lows in terms of our uptrend, right? Which is otherwise classified as our swing lows. So higher lows, we're connecting them. And we will just take our trend line tool and we'll draw it from that wick, and we're aiming to get at least 2 or more touches, right? Good. Now, some of these will not be tapping the trend line because that's how price is. But in essence, we want to get at least 2 taps or more of the trend line. So we've got a tap here, here, and ideally we may get one coming back into here. So this right here could literally decide that, okay, it's coming back into here to give us a tap, right? So we could ideally have price coming all the way back there. So this is literally an uptrend, right? Now what happens in a downtrend? In a downtrend, we're paying attention to the lower highs that are being formed. And your lower highs are generally to the top, right? So of course, we understand that structure, right, is showing us a downtrend. So this is literally gonna be a high, then we've got a lower high, then we've got lower highs going, right, and price just keeps dropping. Okay, so ideally speaking, you want to connect as many of these as possible, and at some point you're going to realize that you're going to have what we call some slippage. So ideally, I would recommend that you even draw these trend lines on the higher time frame to give you a clearer structure. So if you go to the 4-hour time frame, you'd be able to see a better trend line, right? A while ago I was on the 15-minute time frame, and that's sometimes an error that a lot of traders make. And you know, I want to highlight that you would get a better structure of your downtrend in this case, right? So can we get taps going down here? Ideally we may. So let's see if we can connect a trend line. There we go. We got a tap here, a tap here. Ideally we're outside here, right? But you want to pay attention to what price is doing here. This is indeed a 4-hour trend line. You got a tap here, and of course we're not outside. However, you can see that price is ideally just having what we call a bit of slippage on the outside of the trend line. And this is what we're going to factor into our strategy, because a lot plays role in market structure, right? So ideally we had a low here, price came back into this area, right, which is a strong area of, let me use my horizontal, it came back into this area here, and then it continued in the downtrend, right? So ideally, when you're looking at trend line, I don't want you to be looking at trend lines in isolation, because you also have to pay attention to support and resistance levels, right? Now, we're going to get into the strategy in a bit, but I want you to understand how to draw trend lines, right? We want 2 or more touches, right? And then we want to pay attention to what trend is the market in. If we're in a downtrend, we're ideally going to be drawing these trend lines, connecting or lower highs, right? And in an uptrend, we're ideally going to be connecting our higher lows, and the trend line is going to be underneath price versus above price for a downtrend. Okay, so in a nutshell, you have to understand how to connect the dots with the swing highs and the swing lows. You can also do this on the daily time frame for cleaner entries and cleaner trend lines, right? But you want to ideally be paying attention to structure, right? So here's a tip: when you're drawing trend lines, you ideally want to zoom out for structure, right? When in doubt, we always zoom out, right? We always zoom out when in doubt. Now, apart from zooming out, when you're actually looking for entries, you now know that you have to zoom in. So we zoom out to see structure, but then we zoom in for clean entries, okay? Right, so ideally here, this is our trend line. This is how we draw trend lines, and this is how we show you that price is actually respecting these levels, okay? So now that you understand how to draw trend lines, let's get into the actual trading strategy. This is literally called the break and retest trendline strategy. Now, it works best in trending markets. If the market is trending downwards, you can get a potential move for that. Or if it's trending upwards, you can get a high probability setup with this. Now, this does not work in a ranging market. And when I say ranging, I literally mean in a market that's moving sideways like this. We cannot get moves in a ranging or in a consolidating market, right? So make sure you are paying attention to the trend. This is literally a 5-step strategy. So step number 1, we ideally want to identify the trend. Now, we clearly see that price is in a downtrend here because we're making lower highs and lower lows. Price is dropping, right? So that is basically showing us that price is moving downwards, right? So this is a down trend, right? Ideally. I hope my drawing is not too confusing for you, but we're in a down trend, okay? Now, once we've identified the trend, step number 2 is let's draw our trend line. So we know that we're connecting price, the literal lower highs that are being formed because we're in a downtrend, right? So we're going to take our trend line, and our trend line goes above price because we're in a downtrend. And we're looking for at least 2 or more taps of the trend line. Okay. So that's a good one there. Lovely. Right. So ideally, we got a tap here. We got a tap there. The rest of these are null and void because these are the lower lows. So those are fine. Right. So ideally, we're going to have price coming back into here. And that's what we're looking for our setup. Now, when price comes into here, it can either respect our trend line or disrespect it. Now, for our break and retest strategy to be valid, then ideally we're going to have to get disrespect of the trend line, meaning that we're going to have to break through the trend line to get an ideal retest for our entry position. So let's zone in on here because we're waiting on price to come back into our point of interest, which is literally our trend line area here, to see how it actually reacts. So we've got a reaction into the trend line there, and we have broken through the trend line. Now this is ideal here, a lovely break through the trend line. And what is even more important is the fact that we have broken through this low high here. So let's see how price continues to react. Remember, we do not chase trades, so we're not going to just, jump into the market because we've broken structure. We're waiting, right? So ideally, we want to see price break through here, which it has done, but we want to get a retest of this trend line. So right here where my little pink circle is, we want to get a retest into this structure before we even consider to enter. Okay. All right. So let's see how price continues to react in this manner. Let's see if we can get a pullback into the trend line and how it actually reacts. All right. There we go. You can see that we have pulled back into the trend line. Nice and easy, but we're kind of playing a little bit there. So you have to wait. Remember, step number 3 is where the entry confirmation candles come in. And if the entry confirmation candles do not reveal themselves, you do not have an entry. And ideally, you're looking for wick rejections and engulfing candles, right? Wick rejections and engulfing candles at that area. Now, you're only entering when those present themselves. So in the case of this here, you can clearly see that we have a nice wick rejection here, and we're getting some nice bullish momentum. This candle pattern here with the bullish engulfing is really our go-to for entry. All right. So with step 3, you must identify your entry confirmation candles, right? So you wait for that break and retest. Once you get that, your entry trigger is literally them wick rejection and the engulfing candles, and ideally you want to see a pin bar, which you're getting your pin bar here as well, right? So this is your entry trigger. And what you can do now is basically you can place your long position here. Your stop will be below your pin bar, and of course you're aiming to get back into a 1 to 3 position, right? Not too greedy. 1 to 3, right? Good. And you can see that it takes you back into this level. So that's nice because you've got multiple areas here where price had a bit of resistance previously. So you're in a nice level. Always look to the left based on where you're putting your take profit level. So I'll just highlight it here. So we could even come right here. There we go. Perfect. Look, we've got multiple touches at this area here, and that is why we're taking profit there, right? So stop. You could even say, okay, let's give our stop enough room to get that 1 to 3 in, right? And let's see how our trade plays in our favor based on our strategic setup, you know, allowing price to come into our point of interest. And then once price comes into our point of interest, we're ideally looking for a break and retest to get some confirmation in an upward momentum, going in on those confirmation candles and then entering, right? Price came back and retest your trend line, and that is why it's very important for your stop to be where? Below your pin bar, right? Because you saw that it put us in a bit of drawdown, right? But where our stop is, we did not get invalidated. So it's very important where you put your stop. Your stop has to be below them wicks because price can always come and retest structure. That is how it works, right? So nice move. We're moving nicely into profits based on the strategy, right? Lovely, lovely move into profits. Absolutely incredible. And we're on our way into 1 to 2. So ideally, while price is moving in your favor, remember, key thing is reducing your risk, right? And locking in your profits. Very important for you to do that. Nothing is guaranteed in this space. And when the market gives, it's your responsibility to take. You're securing yourself by making sure your break even trade has practically gone very close to your take profit, right? It hasn't directly smashed you out as yet, but make sure you're securing profits because you're more than 3/4 way into your take profit. So why not secure some of that? And then of course, ideally pay attention to price action. All these wick rejections, take your profits and get out of there. No need to be holding for your 1 to 3 when you've got more than 3/4 of the move, basically. Look, 3/4 of the move, right? So these wick rejections, yeah, pay attention to them. So you get price doing all of this, you just take your profit and come out. Remember, you're paying attention to price action, right? Price action is very important, right? So now you're even in a bit of consolidation there. So this is literally what the strategy entails. You want to pay attention to when we get a lovely break, and you want to pay attention to what price is doing. You literally got, 3/4 of your move here. Lock your profits in and be done with it, right? You can always manually close your trade. You do not always have to wait on your TP. Remember, nothing is guaranteed in this space. Okay. With that said, this is literally, a lovely way in which you can take positions and get into the market, secure your profits, and get out of there. Right? So I hope you've been making notes on this phenomenal strategy, and you understand how to utilize trendline break and retest to be able to get nice entries into the market, and make sure you have nice stop loss so that you can get some time for the price to move how it wants to move and then move in your favor. Right? And then, of course, final step with this, always remember, proper risk management is everything. You have to make sure that while you're in a trade, because you know that nothing is guaranteed, you're securing yourself and your capital, and you're making sure that you're not risking more than you're ever willing to lose on any given trade. Right? Always remember that. So stop loss, is very important where it goes. Ideally, you just want to make sure that you're securing the profits, because if the market gives, why not take? All right. So that's literally your breakdown as to how to use trend lines as an effective strategy, with the whole idea of understanding your support and resistance as well. Because what happened, even where you got this lovely entry, there you have it, nice move. Yeah, so some individuals would have said, what, wait on your trade to play in your favor, because it will, but you're probably gonna panic by the time market pulls back and come back into this structure. All right, you're probably gonna panic. So it gave you this lovely move, take your profits and get out of there before the pullback comes in. All right, so with that said, I want you to understand the whole premise of using trend lines to, capture lovely entries, as well as to give you tighter stop losses and to give you high probability setups, and also paying keen attention to price action. And when we talk about price action, support and resistance plays a vital role in price action. So if you didn't know, make sure you pay attention to support and resistance levels in general on your charts, as well as your trend line break and retest levels. Okay, now I want you to understand that trading is a probability game. So with that said, this trend line strategy may not work 100% of the time, but could you get it to work 80% of the time, 85% of the time? Chances are you can. So what I want you to do is, while you're back testing this, do 50 trades over a course of 50 days, right? So a trade a day. And when you do this, you're going to have a logbook to document your wins and your losses. And make sure while you're doing this, you're using proper risk management. So never risk more than 1% or maximum 2% of your account on each trade. Now, after you have done that and you're documenting your profit and your losses, look at your level of profitability. Have you actually leveled up your account during, this time of backtesting this one strategy? That's literally what backtesting is. So I've given you a backtest tip. I hope you use it and, level up your trading account when it comes on to trendline alongside your support and resistance levels. If you're finding any value from this video so far, make sure you smash that like button and go ahead and share this with a struggling trader who probably would benefit from this video. Now, if you want to take this to the next level, I want you to combine trend lines with market structure, because market structure is very important. Now, when I say combine it with market structure, I want you to really look at where, your trend line levels are, and look at when it breaks a particular level. You want to look to the left to see if we had strong support or resistance at this area. Is this an area where we previously had support or resistance? Now, if it is, you've got double confluence here. This is where high probability setups are born. This is where these setups give you the opportunity to make money. So I want you to double down on this by simply using your horizontal lines. So in this case here, we would look like this. Look. And if you even wanted to do it like so, if you look across, you would see that structure is showing you here, here, right? And then of course it came right here and it did it right at your trend line. Let me move this here. You got a tap there as well. So I hope you're seeing what I'm showing you, and you also got, let me move this one right here. I hope you're seeing what I'm showing you here. I'm dropping gems. So literally we got a lovely break of our trend line here, and when we got the break, this was literally a strong level, right? We previously had this level as a level of resistance, and previously it was respecting it. It pushed up here as support. Right, a little bit of slippage here and there because you could see that we came all the way there, right? A little bit of slippage, but if I even brought it down, you would have got more taps right here. Hope you're seeing all of that based on what price is actually doing at this level. And of course, we broke the trend line here, got that pin bar rejection right on that blue line, and of course we pushed up, right? Always pay attention to here. So if your support or resistance level meets where your trend line also breaks, double down on this one. All right, so I want you to really lock in on this, and it's a pro tip where it kind of gives you a higher probability because you're not just looking at the trend line, you're also paying attention to price action, you're paying attention to market structure, and of course your support and resistance levels are a part of that. Okay, so I know a lot of individuals commonly make mistakes when it comes on to, trend lines. So I want to give you these pro tips so that you do not make these mistakes. Now, drawing lines through price, forcing it to fit how you want it to fit. That's not how it works. Draw it to get the taps, as much taps as the market gives, draw in that essence. Now, ideally, you want to have, remember, 2 or more taps of the trend line, right? 2 or more, okay? So draw it based on what price action gives. It will not always fit how you want it to fit. You will have slippage here and there, but it's still a valid trend line once you get those taps, okay? Now, trading the first break without a confirmation is a no-no. Remember, this bit was a break. We don't just hop in, because if we did, of course, it would have stopped us out eventually. You wait for a confirmation. So price breaks out, you don't chase the market. Allow the market to come back and collect you for the move. It will. It always does. So break, retest, and it has come back to the train station to get you. So go on it and go for the long ride, right? Into profits, of course. So don't chase. Just stay grounded at your point of interest, and the train will come back to that area and grab you, right? So be ready so that when it comes, you are ready to hop on it, to grab some profits. All right, I hope you're liking my analogy. Right, so with that said, I don't want you to ignore what the market is doing. Remember, we're using this in a trending market. If market is moving sideways, it's not valid, right? And you're waiting for a proper retest of structure before you get in, okay? These are all very important when it comes on to your trend line break and retest strategy. A phenomenal strategy that you can use. I use it a lot, but I do also combine my trend lines with a lot of other things like the Fibonacci as well. Okay, but this is very powerful, and always remember that you don't chase, you wait, and the market will come back to the point of interest, which is this blue line here, as well as where the blue line and the orange line meet. So your trend line is in direct connection with that support and resistance area. Once we're doing it there, double down on that one and go all in. So I hope you're getting value from this. I hope you've been making notes. I hope you've been, doing all the necessary reflection as to whether or not you've been drawing your trend lines incorrectly based on how you want them to fit. But if you have, there is opportunity for you to change all of that, right? So do your back testing. Remember, everything that I show you here, you have the opportunity to go to the charts and go back test it to prove it for yourself. Do not take my word for it. Go prove it and then come back here and say, listen, Kerry, I've tried this and it works phenomenally. That way you have proven it for yourself. All right, so if you've got any questions, any concerns while you're doing your back testing, be sure to drop them here in the comments and I'll be happy to even connect with you. And if you're actually a struggling trader out there trying to find a great mentor to guide you on this journey, we do have some available slots in our mentorship program, but you will have to actually click the link down below, get yourself registered, and of course we will contact you to see if you're the best fit for our program. Now, if this video helped you to understand trend lines way better, make sure you smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more trading education so that you can become a profitable trader. Now, with that said, I want you to understand that you've got to put God first in every single thing you do, especially in your trading journey. Because if he's in it, without a doubt, you must win it. It becomes inevitable when you become consistent, when you stay sharp, and when you trade like an all-star. If it is that you want a trading guide on this strategy in a PDF format, make sure you click the link down below and sign up for that freebie, and I'll get it to your email as soon as possible. With that said, stay safe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.